I'm only going to just welcome you guys. I don't know who's presenting though. I mean, I can. Oh, yeah. I know. Okay. All right. Shall I go? Yeah. Ready? All right, everybody, welcome to Food and Agriculture Day at COP28. My name is Margaret Ziegler. I am the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture's representative in the United States of America. I'm based in Washington, D.C. We're really happy to host now a panel that's going to look at bioinnovation, biotechnology, and I'm going to just give a few quick introductions for our panelists. But I just wanted to welcome Bio to this pavilion because it's first time we've worked together. We're so glad you're here with us. ICA really is one of the science-based institutions of the Americas. We embrace bioinnovation, biotechnology, and the use of it in order to conserve and adapt and to advance productivity in agriculture and food systems. So we're really happy again to launch this panel today, and we have all ladies. This is wonderful, and our moderator also. So wonderful to have an all-woman panel. Woohoo! So we will be hearing from today, first on my immediate left, Jamie Adams. She is the Senior Advisor for International Affairs and U.S. AIM for Climate, which is Agricultural Innovation Mission for Climate. And she's also the lead at in the Office of Chief Scientist at USDA. So great to have representation from the United States. We also have, on the far end, Andréane Léger from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. So we have US and Canada. And then we also have Anna Rath, President and CEO of Vestaron and Board Chair of BIO's Agriculture and Environment section. And she is with the private sector, so wonderful. And then moderating today for us is Natasha Santos, Vice President and Head of Global Stakeholders Affairs and Strategic Partnerships with Bayer Crop Science. And we're really grateful to Bayer. Bayer's been a really long-term friend of ICA. We work together on many issues, especially Living Soils of the Americas, which is a hemispheric program aiming to really boost soil health and carbon sequestration in the soil and boosting productivity. So thank you to all of you involved in this event, and I'm going to turn it over to Natasha.
You stole my paper. With my notes, all right. Hi, hello, good morning, well, good afternoon already, everyone. I'm very happy to be moderating this panel today, and very happy that it's all women panel. I think the topic is very important, so today we're gonna have a multi-stakeholder dialogue to address how innovation ecosystem are really accelerating biotechnology contributions to climate mitigation, adaptation, and of course, farming, cropping systems resilience. So a lot of the things that we have been talking in this COP, we are almost on the last days, and today is Food and Agriculture Day, as Margaret mentioned, so it's our day. So I'm happy to be here and happy to have the conversation. So let me start maybe asking the panels to have some brief remarks, opening remarks on the topic of biotechnology, but of course in the context of the discussions that we have here at COP. And how are you feeling about the Food and Agricultural Day? What are the ambitions from your organization point of view? And what do you expect for the discussions in the last days here at COP? So let me start with you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's such a great opportunity to join you all today for the panel. And I'd like to start by thanking the organizers for having me here today, and also the United Arab Emirates for having, for the first time ever, a Food and Agriculture Day. And so we're so excited about the opportunity ahead of us. And specifically, I'll just mention real briefly the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate, or AIM for Climate, that made some announcements earlier this week that I'll speak in more depth to here in a minute. but also to really recognize that through Aim for Climate, we're embracing all the opportunities, that we need many solutions to bring to bear the opportunities and the challenges that we see ahead of us to feed a growing global population. So biotechnology is part of that solution tool set, and we see a huge opportunity ahead of us to continue expanding the role of research and development as we face the challenges of climate change and food security in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go the order.
Hi, really great to be here. Echo the thanks to the organizers for inviting me to come, and also really excited about there being a Food and Agriculture Day at this year's COP. So I am here wearing two hats. My day job is that I am the CEO of Vestaron, where fundamentally what we are doing is introducing a novel class of molecules to the world of crop protection. That class of molecules is peptides, which are just small proteins, but what is revolutionary about them in this context is that they combine every bit the same efficacy as your traditional small molecule chemical pesticides, but with the safety and environmental profile of a molecule that, once it gets into the soil, will literally degrade into amino acids in a matter of days. And that is something that the world of crop protection has just never seen before. That is my one hat. My other hat is that, as was mentioned, I am chair of the Agriculture and Environment section at Bio, and we believe that biotechnology solutions are climate solutions. And so whether those are solutions for health or solutions for agriculture or solutions for renewable fuels, we are not going to achieve all of our climate related goals without the help of biotechnology. And so that is why Bio is here, and what we are hoping to contribute to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Adrienne.
Is it work? Yeah, okay, it's working. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be here. So we've heard a lot in the last week and a half about the challenges that we're facing as a world. We're talking food security, sustainability, of course, climate change, climate resilient crop production. So in the short term, we need to know that we need to adapt as fast as possible what we know works. And mitigation now is really preparing the resilience of the future in agriculture, because it's one of the sectors that's most exposed to climate change and feeling its impact. But at the same time, we need to prepare the future in a different way, which is in investing in research and innovation. And in Canada, what we have been trying to do is to think about keeping the pace of innovation, including for biotechnology, because we need to use all the tools at our disposal, and biotechnology is definitely a tool that we need to have in the toolkit to be able to address those important challenges. The pace of innovation, of course, is really dependent on the predictability of the regulatory context, the market access for new products, the international collaboration among those different regulatory approaches. So that's what we want to push for and discuss in the context of this COP that is opening up a world of opportunities, I think, with the first Food and Agriculture Day, but also the declaration that's been announced on December 1st, and all the implementation activities that are going to take place following the declaration. So really happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So let's start with the private sector, perhaps, in your both heads. I wanted to ask you, Anna, if you could share with you from your perspective and with the innovations that your company has on the portfolio, and in the context of the discussions here in COP, how do you see, or what are the main points or priorities from a private sector point of view that you think the public policy can really accelerate the development and the access of biotech innovations, for example, so we can address some of the big ambitions that we have here, so address climate adaptation in particular, and as well mitigation and greenhouse gases emission reduction?
Yeah, I think one of the key things to understand is that innovation often comes from small companies. And those small companies have a really big task ahead of them, because they are trying to be disruptors, right? They are trying to be disruptors of very entrenched, very large industries. And so I think there are many things that government can do to really help enable those kinds of companies, whether it is a predictable regulatory framework, right? Because we all know that investors like predictability, and so knowing what you're up against, what your timelines are going to be, what your costs are going to be, that's critically important. Also, investors like intellectual property. So one of the key things is ensuring that those investments that are turned into novel intellectual property are worthwhile because there is knowledge that that intellectual property will be protected. And then there are things like infrastructure, right? A lot of the entrenched industries that disruptors are going up against have built up trillions of dollars worth of infrastructure over, decades, if not centuries. All of that needs to be recreated if we're going to move from more of a fossil fuel-based economy to more of a bioeconomy. And so there's certainly a lot of role for government in helping enable and helping to finance the creation of that new infrastructure that will be needed to enable this new set of innovations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let me turn to you, Jamie, and hearing a little bit of the perspective of the private sector. Can you share with us a little bit more, for who doesn't know, about the AIM for Climate, and then how do you see those types of initiatives accelerating this innovation ecosystem that we're just discussing today?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. So AIM for Climate, or the Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate, was launched by President Biden at COP26 in partnership with the United Arab Emirates. And over the last couple of years, the initiative has grown to over 600 partners from around the world, including 55 countries. And we're really proud this week to have announced that our partners have accumulated over $17 billion worth of increased investment in climate-smart agriculture and food systems innovation. It's important to note that this is an increase over our 2020 baseline. So there's still that baseline spending that's taking place, but through the 21 to 25 window, we're seeing a $17 billion increase. Now this breaks down between state and non-state actors, so our 55 government partners. We have 34 of them who are providing investment figures at this stage that are providing a portion of that surge. And then the balance is through our innovation sprints. And we launched another tranche of sprints here at COP. We heard from several of them at the US Center yesterday. And we're really excited that these 78 innovation sprints many are public, private, and some also with philanthropic partnerships in place. And so this is a huge opportunity. And to the speaker's point earlier on the government and being able to provide options for de-risking, through this initiative, we're seeing relationships being built that we've never seen before, and the opportunity for governments and non-government organizations to come together. And we see the government come to the table to provide an investment, especially in earlier stage research, that helps to provide a lower risk profile for some of our private sector, venture capital, and philanthropic investors to come to the table as well. And through that increased investment and through these partnerships, we can really see an opportunity for solutions to be found in a more expedited manner, which of course feeds into that ambition loop, of course, because as we see solutions come through and those returns on investment, that will then enable more to come into this environment, no more what we would consider non-traditional investors in this space, those that are historically investing in clean energy that have never really approached agriculture. They don't know much about agriculture, but they're seeing the opportunity through this initiative.
Convening and the convening power as well is very, very important. Thank you. Moving to you, Adrienne, representing the government of Canada. How does the government of Canada see strengthening the toolbox of farmers with innovations such as biotechnology, contributing to climate resilience, food security, the discussions that we have here, climate adaptation?
Yes, thank you. So I mentioned the challenges basically that the world is facing and where agriculture has a key role to play. So when we're thinking about food security, sustainability of production systems, climate change, and these challenges, I think, have only reaffirmed the importance of enabling farmers to have access to the tools available to enhance productivity, meet global demand that we know is going to be increasing to 2050, and improve the sustainability of agri-food systems. So for us, for farmers, it's important that for the government that our producers have access to a variety of agricultural practices, products, technologies, because it enables them to make the decisions that make sense for them on farm. And I was participating in another event this morning about our innovative approaches around farmer-led and farmer-centric innovation. And we know that for this, for farmers to adopt, the practices and the products need to make sense for them on their farm from a cost perspective, from a work routine perspective. So it's key that we give them that liberty, that freedom, and the availability of those different practices, because they are the best ones to make those decisions on their farm. And then I would also go a bit further and talk about the innovators, because I alluded to that, and you picked up a bit on this point. A key factor in making sure that those products and technologies become available is, for these new and innovative products to get to market in a timely manner. And of course, we know that the regulatory and the policy context that govern those products is extremely important, both domestically, but I would think also internationally. So it's not only because Canada having a relatively small market, when you think about it, the international perspectives are also very important. And then really the policies and the systems would need to be predictable, risk-based, science-based, and proportionate to risk, I would say as well, and transparent as much as possible. So I can talk about it a bit more maybe in details, but we are updating our the processes that we are following in Canada to try to level the playing field and provide that predictability. So basically what we're doing is that for us, the regulation for novel plants, animal feed and human, we regulate for novel plants, animal feed and human food, each under different legislation. And the regulatory requirements are then different for each of those innovations. And when a product is novel, which means that it's different from what already exists and is already available in Canada, there's role for our Health Canada, so our Ministry of Health, and our Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and they are the ones who do the pre-market assessments. So Health Canada assesses the safety of the product for use as human food, and then our Food Inspection Agency assesses the safety for environmental release in the environment for plants, and also for plants to be grown as a crop. And they also assess the efficacy and the safety of the products for use as livestock feed. So what we do right now is that we are providing new guidance surrounding this regulatory oversight of those products, to improve that enhanced transparency, the predictability for the product developers, for farmers, exporters. And we're thinking, we keep in mind doing that, these emerging technologies like gene editing, for example. So we don't want to be a roadblock for the development of those projects. So what we're doing is basically providing this new guidance to make it easier to determine whether a product will be novel and hence will need pre-market assessment. And just doing that, we're hoping, is going to be, increasing the predictability, making things easier, faster, so that those products get developed faster, but also get into the market faster.
Thank you very much for sharing some of that and the strategy that Canada has been putting forward. Anna, back to you. I thought, could you elaborate a little bit more on your innovation journey? I think for maybe people that are not as familiar how the private sector operates, and then what type of challenges that regulatory process can impose in that journey, and then what are the solutions from a private sector that you would like to share with us today?
Sure. So Vestron has existed as a company since 2005. It has been known for decades that there are these super potent insecticidal peptides in the world. They come from things like spider venom and scorpion venom and sea anemones, right? Things that have evolved over hundreds of millions of years to be really good at killing insects. But they didn't evolve over that time to be readily produced in a yeast-based fermentation, or even for that matter, stable in an insect gut, because when a spider kills an insect, it does it by injection. And so the first 13 years of the company's life was spent overcoming these core technical challenges associated with turning these super potent insecticidal peptides into viable agricultural products that could be produced at a viable agricultural cost of goods. So it was by late 2017 that the company was like, oh, we think we've done it, right? This was this little 15-person R&D organization, and so it's time to turn into a real company. And so they went searching for a new CEO who was the kind of person who could build the company and scale up manufacturing and bring products to market, and that was me. And so I joined the company in the spring of 2018. Those of you who are familiar with venture capital will know that venture capitalists often operate on 10-year funds, right? So if you think about this company that had been already in existence for 12 years without making any money, our existing investors were exhausted. And so, like literally structurally exhausted. And so one of the first things that I needed to do was recapitalize the company and bring in a whole new set of investors. And so again, going back to this point, if you want to have innovations like this, investors need to know that at least at the end of that, 12 years of hard work, they're going to have some intellectual property to show for it, and they're going to need to know what that regulatory process is going to look like to bring these products to market, because this was actually existential for Vestaron. When we came to the US EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, we had no idea how they were going to treat us, because over here there was the registration division for traditional chemistries, and over here there was the BPPD for microbial products. What were we? We were neither of those, right? And so it was an open question how they were going to treat us. And by the way, it's an open question in every new country we go into in the world, how they're going to treat us. And by the way, they're all making different decisions. And so ultimately, what the EPA did was create a new group called the Emerging Technologies Division, because they said, this is probably not the last time we're going to see something new for the first time. And so let's just create a place where those things will go. And because we are doing risk-based assessments, we think that those things should probably have a faster path, right? So we'll put this within the BPPD because that's our faster path, but we want to make sure that we're getting it right on the safety and environmental requirements, and so we're going to give them chemical level requirements, right? And that's actually perfect. It sounds worse than it is, because the way that regulatory studies are organized is in tiers. And if you do the tier 1 studies and you show no effect, right, then you don't have to do the tier 2 studies and so on. And so even though we're held to the same requirements as a traditional chemistry, we will end up with a regulatory package that might only be 40 studies versus a traditional chemistry that would have a regulatory package that might be 300. And so it makes sense that the regulators can then review that in a shorter period of time. So that's an example of a happy outcome of regulation. An example of a less happy one is what we are now facing in Europe, right? So Europe is looking to reduce use and risk of chemical pesticides. Great, right? We are exactly the kind of solution that they need. We've now our first peptide spear. It's a broad spectrum insecticide. It has been sprayed on more than 750,000 acres of fruit and vegetable and nut crops in the US. On every one of those acres, it was a 1-for-1 displacement of a chemical pesticide spray. And across all of those acres, we have had 0 validated efficacy or crop complaints. So we are successfully displacing chemical pesticides. However, right now, the way it works in Europe is first you need to pick a rapporteur member state, and that member state will do the initial evaluation of your product, and then it will go to the EU-wide assessment. Those few rapporteur member states that actually have people in their agencies that can handle a biological package, right, that knows something about our kind of science, are so backed up right now that it is literally a 3-year wait just to get a slot to be able to submit your molecule for approval, and it is then at least a 3.5-year approval process from there. And so if you want to have these kinds of disruptive innovations, they need a path, right? And that path needs to be predictable, but also flexible, because they are going to be things that governments are seeing for the first time.
It's regulations keeping up with innovation is challenging, right? So I like that you highlighted the needed for flexibility. Adrienne, maybe I'll go back to you. You mentioned about the science-based predictable approach that Canada is driving at the moment. Maybe if you could share with us some perspective on, in terms of alignment from a national, but especially from an international point of view, right? Agricultural products move around the world. So in terms of alignment, where do you think are the priorities that we need to work on to incentivize those disruptive innovations?
Well, I think maybe I'll take a bit of a side answer. I think we're really encouraged to see that there's more and more interest in simplifying the regulatory approval processes. We see, the FAO has developed its toolkit, providing guidance. It goes broader than regulations, but it's, outlining the benefits of biotechnology, talking about public engagement on biotechnology, because it's been such a sensitive topic. I think we need to also to think about the public trust implications. We need to think about what it makes, we need to think about how we present it to the broader public, build the trust back again in certain countries, and then make sure that we can explain to people what it is that we're doing with those tools. And then the regulatory approach, so that, and these things all need to happen at the same time. We need to talk about it with our constituents, but then we also need to work with the companies, with our farmers, to know what's in the pipeline, how we can best support them to advance the development of those innovative products and technologies. At the same time, as I said, we're really encouraged to see that there is more and more openness and discussion related to novel technologies, novel products. I mentioned the FAO toolkit, which I think is going to be a precious reference document to help different countries deal with that. There were discussions at the Asia Pacific Economic Conference, where we can see a lot of international momentum in terms of countries talking, discussing how to best proceed together, because it is important from an international trade perspective that we can address those barriers. I mean, I didn't know about how crazy, complicated it could be, but this is definitely an obstacle for a company, especially a small one that's trying to get its investors happy and keep them. And then we can also think about the OECD that's also providing, support and an important reflection on that side. So I think we're encouraged to see those different initiatives, to see that the momentum is growing. And I mean, this is just fair given the challenges that we're facing. If we want to be able to respond to the climate crisis, keeping in mind food security, productivity, farmers' livelihoods, we're going to need to look at those solutions that are there and try to speed up their uptake. So I think we're encouraged, but yet we're going on pushing for that.
Jamie, let's go to you. Partnership is a passion of mine, and it's my job as well, so I need to highlight that always, particularly in public-private partnerships. So I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit from your experience at the IAM for Climate, but as well your professional experience. What are the successful models of public and private partnership that you have seen that effectively supported the development of innovations, for example, biotechnologies, but acceleration of innovations in general as well in agriculture?
Yeah, so I think I'll take a little bit of a non-traditional angle to this question. I mean, we all know how effective public-private partnerships, and now adding another P, adding in those philanthropic opportunities in there as well. And I think when those partnerships come together, if they focus on the farmer, focus on the end user, and make sure that they're an early part of the conversation, that's key to ensuring the scaling opportunity of innovations and creating the pull mechanism. You can push an innovation out, but if it's not economically viable at the farm level, if there's not going to be a return on an investment, because after all, farmers, ranchers, fishers, and foresters are running a business at the end of the day. And I heard a quote yesterday, and I'll take it from the panel. They said, "You can't go green if your farm's in the red." And so it's really hard for farmers especially to adopt these new technologies and these new opportunities, even if it is a displacement of an existing, if there's not a return at the farm level. And then on the consumer side, especially with biotechnology, we've seen challenges from the adoption, and the consumers are going to be the individuals who do the pull. And I think we also need to think about our messaging as part of these partnerships, and when the parties come together and they work towards getting that end product that's available, consumers really want to know what the benefit is. And if we talk more about the product benefits and not how it was made, all of us, many of us in this room are researchers or from a scientific background. The words like biotechnology, nanotechnology, machine learning, artificial intelligence, they all make sense in our world. But the average consumer hears some of these words and instantly there's confusion, concern. But if they know that the product was produced and the benefits ultimately allow more solutions to come to the table in an expedited fashion, which is inevitably what, at least in plants, That's what biotechnology is enabling, right? So you don't have this prolonged product timeline with extensive plant breeding in a lot of these projects. Biotechnology is really moving those solutions through the pipeline faster, and the end product and the end result is really the same. And so we need to start talking more about what that product is and the benefits of the product rather than how we got there.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for the farmer-centric approach that we need to highlight always. Having that in mind, Anna, back to you and that farmer-centric conversation on particularly how we develop innovations. As the president of Bio and close to this innovation ecosystem, startups, small companies as well, what are the most exciting things that you see or you expect coming to the market that can really help us to make the world more climate resilient and contribute to the discussions here? You shared some of your portfolio and your pipeline, but what are you excited about on the years to come?
There's so much. It's across such a broad range, whether it's biotechnology helping enable animal health, helping enable higher yielding plants, whether products like ours that can displace traditional fossil fuel based products, whether it is alternative fuels, right, that can help displace that side of traditional fossil fuel based products. There's just there's a myriad of things coming, and what's really exciting is that the pace of innovation and the tools that exist to facilitate that innovation just keep getting better. So whether it's how quickly we can sequence DNA, or how much we can improve yields of products made through fermentation, just we are getting so much better. It's just it's exponential opportunity to use all of these tools to develop products and technologies that can really have an impact on this urgent need.
Thank you. And before I open to the colleagues here in the room, and we go into the end of the discussion, but let's see on the Q&A. But I wanted to ask to the three of you, what have been the most, whatever you can share, of course, the most exciting conversations or meetings or engagements that you had at this COP28 that made you hopeful that things are maybe moving to the right direction, or at least we are thinking out of the box enough to really fight the climate pressure that we have at the moment. Jamie, you want to go first? Put you on spot. I know you're.
I'm still thinking. Wow. So there's been so many conversations. That's the challenge, right? But it's good because we're all here and we're having those conversations and building new relationships for conversations that can continue after we all leave Dubai. And I think some of the conversations that I've heard, more farmer voices here. There was a panel this morning and hearing from a passionate mother, a mother of a 9-year-old boy, thanking Secretary Vilsack for the programs that are in place to provide more equitable opportunities to small and medium-sized farm owners. And she said, look, you're enabling me to continue my opportunities on my farm in a way that's sustainable so that I have hope that I can continue this legacy and pass it on to her 9-year-old son. And hearing those stories and knowing that there are humans behind all of this is critical, that we can't lose that perspective. And on the flip side, hearing from the private sector and seeing the private sector here and saying, hey, we hear you. We know that we need to adjust and transform, and this is what we're doing, and we have been doing it for a while. And so hearing those stories from both sides of the spectrum have been really enlightening, and I hope for much more going forward.
Thank you. Anna.
Yeah, so I would echo all that you said about the farmer-centric approach and the people behind the stories. I think I'm just excited that there is a Food and Ag Day, and that on that Food and Ag Day, we're talking about biotechnology as an essential solution to achieving all of our goals. And as I understand it, we're also doing very well on the Food and Ag agreement, right, that is being reached. And so the fact that there is one, the fact that people are engaged and are signing up to it, I think is all positive momentum.
Thank you. Adrian.
Yes, so the leaders' declaration definitely. We've it started with the Aim for Sea summit in May. That was an incredible event, and then all along working with the COP presidency with lots of partners. Like the strength of that partnership. I don't know that it was really interesting. I thought and to see like bankers being touched by the leaders' declaration when you see it happening, it is incredible what the UAE has been able to do in terms of getting this coalition of countries signing on to the declaration. And as much as this in and by itself with the Food and Agriculture Day is an achievement, it's not like they're sitting down and saying like, oh, wow, we did such a great job, let's celebrate. No, they're talking very intensely about what's coming next. Where do we want to be at COP29? Where do we want to be at COP30? And it's great to see that the ambition is there. Brazil has already made very clear that agriculture and food systems are on the agenda for COP30. It's there to stay as an issue. So I think this is great to see so much of a momentum around food and agriculture, and also so many people willing to participate from all across the economy. So that's really good news.
Thank you. Thank you. A lot of like-minded organizations. Let me open the Q&A to the room, to the colleagues here. Any questions, any comments, any reflections on the panel? I have a lot, but we need to.
I have a question.
Yeah?
So there was a water ministerial today, this morning. So really linking for the first time in the COP process the issue of water and agriculture and food security. So can you talk a little bit more, maybe from your different perspectives, how you're seeing the trend going for bioinnovation to support water and food, since that seems to be kind of a growing topic and of importance, especially with climate change really impacting water supplies. So if any of you have any responses, love
Let's
to
just
hear it.
start.
I guess the biggest impact that we have on water is to not put chemical pesticides into it that are going to stick around for decades or potentially centuries, and as a result, create hazard in that water supply. I think the other thing is, as it relates to agriculture in general, the key is yield, right? You're going to put all of these inputs into a field, whether it's water or crop protection or fertilizer, and what you want to do is get every bit the most you can out of those inputs, right? That is how you are more sustainable. And so we had a study recently done for us. So Europe is aiming to reduce chemical pesticide use by 50% by 2030, right? And there are a variety of studies out there that say that if they do that without good alternatives, the consequence will be a decline in yields of anywhere from 7 to 20%, depending on who you believe. And so, assuming that Europeans still want to eat, the consequence of that is that you are going to have land somewhere else in the world brought into agricultural production. And there is no better way to put carbon into the atmosphere than to chop down an acre of rainforest and begin farming it. And so we worked together with a researcher at the University of Colorado who works on the carbon implications of land use change, right? Has models that say this is probably the land that would come into production. Here's the carbon impact of doing that. And what she found is that solutions like ours, by enabling the maintenance of yields, could avoid about 80 million metric tons of carbon emissions per year. And so this comes back around to water, because again, you're going to be using water on every one of those agricultural acres. And so if you can produce more on that acre, then in aggregate you are using less water. So the key to carbon footprint, the key to water in agriculture is yield.
Thank you. Anyone want
Well,
to?
maybe just to mention that I think in Canada, we have put lots of emphasis on climate change, because this is like, we needed to act quickly, but we're also developing a sustainable agriculture strategy where we're trying to bring together all the environmental issues, because we know that on the farm they are integrated, so we cannot really treat them in isolation. Water is a key one, water quality, but also water availability. We see lots of different rainfall patterns now in Canada that we were not used to, so that's definitely critical. And I'm really excited by the potential of gene editing, for example, in unlocking, increasing the efficiency of photosynthesis, for example, increasing, changing the way plants process nitrogen, and also looking at how they can better resist, salinity, droughts. So there's lots of potential, and I think this is an area of research that's going to be really exciting to follow.
Thank you. Jamie, want to comment on that
You
one?
know, I think my colleagues said it all. There's not a whole lot else to
Exactly.
add there, so happy to go to the next question.
Good. Any other? No? All right. Yes, go.
Build on a point that Jamie made about focusing on the product rather than the process, especially as it relates to biotechnology. I'll give you an example of where that's not true and where it is extremely harmful. So our peptides do not qualify for organic agriculture. The reason that they do not qualify for organic agriculture is because we produce our peptides in a yeast, and that yeast has to be genetically modified because yeast don't naturally make insecticidal peptides, right? And so we manufacture in that GM yeast. We then separate the yeast from our peptide product. We certify to the regulatory agency that there is nothing GM in our final product at all whatsoever. But the fact that our product once came in contact with a GM yeast means it doesn't qualify as organic. What does that mean? That means that organic growers do not have right now effective insecticides. That means they do more passes through the field using more fossil fuels than they would if they had more effective pesticides, but they can't have them because our peptides once came in contact with a GM yeast.
Yeah, that's why we need to incentivize the outcomes and be more
Science-based.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Science-based and
And
predictable
public
on
trust.
regulation.
Yes.
Explaining to people
Yes.
what it means,
Yeah.
that they understand.
Thank you. All right, so I think that's a wrap for today. I want to thank the panelists for the discussion, for sharing their perspective and the work that has been done. We have proven today that we have collective, we share the same collective goals, that we have the innovations and the out-of-the-box thinking and the ambition to develop and deploy those to the end user, in this case, the farmers. But we need the proper environment, the proper incentive and regulatory environment that's science-based, predictable, and flexible enough to keep up with innovation. So we heard some challenges, but we heard some opportunities and things that the panelists are excited about. So I am too. So thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you again. Thank you for who was awake in our continent. It was too early, I think, so maybe they will watch the recording. But thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the organizer for convening us. And yeah, that's a wrap. Enjoy the